A billion-dollar cargo vanishes 200 miles off Venezuela. No AIS, no radio, just a 500-foot Russian freighter drifting into a weapons black box. You're here because you want to know how it was found before it crossed the line. We'll show you the exact moment a MQ-4C Triton at 50,000 feet pinned a single container, 894, believed to hide a Club K system. How Southern Command built a quiet kill chain without firing a shot, and why one surface submarine froze 2 frigates in place. Stay for the blueprint, ISR over brute force. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. A 500-foot freighter goes dark at 200 nautical miles. No AIS, no radio. So how did the watch keep eyes on steel when the ship erased itself? You do it by stripping away the ship's choices until silence tells on itself. Near the Venezuelan approaches.
All right, now the United States is expanding its operations against Venezuela with respect to the oil tankers, and this time, action is taking place miles away. That there are more and more tankers that are now seeking protection of Moscow by changing their flag of registration to Russia, and according to the Lloyd's list, more than 40 Shadow Fleet ships from the Caribbean. There is a new escalation that pits Russia and the United States directly against each other.
AIS isn't just a habit. It's legal visibility. When a ship kills its transponder, the chart goes blind. No identity, no declared course, no declared speed. That raises collision risk in crowded lanes, but it also hides cargo you don't want logged, gear that shifts power on shore and at sea. The gap isn't technical trivia. It's a cloak that lets a billion-dollar load slide inside a gray zone. Meanwhile, Venezuelan defenses flex.
In the latest flashpoint, the United States has seized what is reported to be the Russian-flagged oil tanker called Bella 1. It is now being called Marinera. On Tuesday, the Russian Foreign Ministry had said that it is monitoring the situation with a great amount of concern. By the Russians, the United States has in fact carried out an operation after a 2-week-long chase in the North Atlantic to seize this Russian-flagged oil tanker.
Mobile air defense units light their radars in short bursts, then go cold and roll. The airspace turns jittery, pings, then quiet. Surface ships hang just outside 12 nautical miles, careful not to cross the line. One wrong wake inside territorial water, and you've handed the other side a sovereignty claim. So the play starts offshore. Space-based cues mark sea clutter that moves like tonnage, not weather. Passive RF sniffers rake the horizon for stray emissions. Crew chatter, mistuned radar, a carelessly keyed mic standoff platform sweep with wide-area maritime radar. Each system draws a thin line on a blank map. Stack enough lines, and a hull appears. Think of it as a spider web over blue water. Each thread is a different sensor.
Now, this is the same tanker that the Americans say had been evading the American Coast Guard and then switched its registration to Russia. Russia reportedly had asked the United States to stop pursuing the vessel. It was flanked by Russian military assets at the time of the seizure. The Russian submarine and the warship apparently did not intervene.
When one strand goes slack, 2 others tighten. The freighter can mute a beacon. It can't mute its wake, its heat, or the way steel reflects a radar sweep at a shallow angle. Here's where endurance matters. MQ-4C Triton rides high, above 50,000 feet, with the hours to stare and the radar to paint moving targets through haze and distance. It isn't dodging terrain or timing gas. P-8A crews can sprint in and log hard reads, but they live by windows. On station, off station, refuel. The Coast Guard brings a different edge. Law. Enter the cutter James. It closes under Safety and Compliance Authority, the low-key language of fire hazards and cargo checks. That framing matters. You shift the optic from warship to law enforcement while Navy hulls stay back. The stakes don't drop, but the temperature does. But then the probes begin. 2 frigates ease out, old hulls with big guns.
As these American Marines rappelled down in this very dramatic manner from helicopters and captured the vessel. The Pentagon chief has now issued a warning. Pete Hegseth, the War Secretary, has said that the Venezuela oil blockade is effective around the world. This move could, of course, spark a bit of a showdown between Russia and the United States.
Testing angles to block the cutter's approach. On the coast, air defenses flicker and change sights. The air grows noisy, full of echoes and decoys. The track holds anyway, not because one radar shouts, but because many quiet feeds agree. A thermal smear that matches engine load. A persistent wake length against current. A faint radio burst that repeats with the rhythm of a bridge watch. The question you asked, how did it vanish, has a straight answer. It didn't. It shed one beacon. The net stayed. Space marked the lane. Air mapped the wake. Passive ears caught human error at odd hours, the tell of a tired crew working a silent run.
But Kremlin is yet to officially comment on the incident, and it can literally happen anywhere where the Americans can seize any tanker that they assume is carrying out Venezuelan oil trade. Now, moments after this, the U.S. military announced the seizure of another oil tanker in the Caribbean.
All of this happens without crossing the 12-mile line. No warning shots. No boarding. Just pressure. The cutter keeps the compliant script. Navy screens wide and silent. Triton writes the plot from altitude and refuses to blink. The freighter's options narrow to two: drift and invite a check, or sprint and prove intent. By now, the hull is mapped, not just its path, but its rhythm. Speed changes at set points, a crew that waits for radar gaps, a radio habit at shift change. That's enough to move the fight inside the steel, not the ship. One box that matters more than the rest. Container 894. Out of hundreds of boxes, one ID.
A sanctioned tanker ship in the Caribbean, the second vessel was taken by the American forces on the same day. But the vessel refused to be boarded, leading to a chase in the high seas. And since then, its crew had painted a Russian flag on its side, changed its name to Marinera.
894 matters. A moving warehouse, a steel maze, and you still name the needle. How? Club K changes the stakes. It hides in plain sight. A standard container that opens into a cruise missile battery. For tubes, disguised hardware, fast deploy doors. At sea, it's freight. Ashore, it's a launcher with reach-out-to-sea lanes and coastal sites. If it lands and sets, you face a live battery pointed at traffic you need to keep safe. That's escalation on rails. The risk sits at the pier. A quiet offload near a Venezuelan port turns hours into a window for rapid assembly. A crew with a checklist can bolt, cable, and aim before you file the first note. Now sea lines tighten, route planners redraw lanes, and nearby U.S. sites live under a new threat line. But kicking a door with a boarding party? That hands your rival a speech and a crisis.
The vessel named Sapphire was operating in international waters at the time of its seizure. The U.S. Coast Guard had tried to board Bella 1 tanker last month in the Caribbean when it was believed to be headed towards Venezuela.
You need a cleaner route, so you build a non-kinetic kill chain. Start with triangulation, multiple eyes and ears placing mass in 3 dimensions. High-res imaging picks out panel seams, hinge lines, and foam gaps where none should exist. Heat maps read engine rooms, but also call out a box that runs warm with powered guts. Structural scans see reinforcements that don't match a standard empty. The aim isn't to hit, it's to prove. You want to know, not guess. Triton earns its keep here. At around 50,000 feet, it holds a persistent stare day into night, with the endurance to watch the same deck layout as crews shuffle and covers move. It feeds a clean baseline, then flags the drift from normal, an odd cable run, a changed gap, a new thermal patch after sunset. Meanwhile, EW aircraft listen for radar habits on shore, satellites tag emitters, and note bursts from mobile units. And the fusion cell lines it all up against intel tags already tied to suspect cargo. You match a label to a location without ever touching steel. Noise can help you too. An EA 18G Growler cuts in and tosses MEL decoys, small, smart fakes that light up enemy radars and push tracking into the weeds. Mislock spike. The radars chase ghosts. In that confusion, the ISR team gets clean time on the freighter's deck. No skin breaks. No sudden shadows. Just crisp reads on the stack and the strap lines that hold it down. Then leverage surfaces, literally. A Virginia-class sub rises near 2 blocking frigates, a black hull on gray water, and every bridge watch knows what that means. Torpedo math stops aggressive helms from pressing their luck. Nobody fires. Nobody needs to. Space opens for the cutter to hold its lane and for the net to keep reading. Now the payoff lands by voice. Calm, measured, on an open channel. The ship is advised that container 894 is assessed to carry military-grade risk and must not be offloaded. No shouting, no threats. Precision does the work. When you can name the box, you don't need to board. You force a choice under a spotlight. Why the drone and how the ID sticks? Because Triton paints the same scene for hours and fuses it with every other sensor. The thermal quirk, the structural clue, the RF feint. Until 894 stands out like a flare. The laser designation isn't a weapon cue here. It's a pointer that makes the picture shared and credible. The freighter stays out of the pier. The risk stays boxed. No one crosses a line. The lesson runs wider than one hull. This is how precision ISR beats escalation at the edge of sovereign water. Certainty stops fights. Precision ISR turns a billion-dollar threat into a call sign and a container number. No shells, no boarding, just proof that holds in daylight and on tape. You saw how a sensor net made silence loud, how a single box lost its cover once the reeds aligned. That mindset wins standoffs. If you want the tactical edge that wins without firing, subscribe and drop your take. ISR first or hard intercept first? Comment your choice below. Next time, we break one link. A sensor gap. One blind minute. Watch how control slides. How a calm standoff can snap into chaos with a single missed read.